Over to you, Simon. Please give him a hand.
Thanks, James. Super happy to be back at APS. So I think just as a usual introduction, I'll ask everyone to let me know where you guys are from, where you guys are based right now. And a special thing for today, we do have a quick poll for everyone to answer, because we're going to be talking about strategies to follow in post-IDFA. And so I'm interested to hear what everyone is planning to do. Poll is not very complicated, but it will be super nice to see if there are different opinions or if everyone is planning to do more or less of the same. So I see we have people from the UK, Ukraine, Scotland, Dublin. The UK is definitely well represented. Wow, New Zealand, welcome Kiwis, I guess. Super happy to see everyone. So for today, we're going to talk about ASO and user acquisition. But before we jump in, I have the usual introduction about my company, AppTweak. So if you're new to App Promotion Summit, we've been here for a while, but it's always good to meet new faces. We at AppTweak are an ASO tool, and our goal is just to help everyone, every app improve growth using our ASO and market intelligence features, with usually a very good user interface, very popular one. So if you don't know about us yet, obviously please check us out. We've been working in ASO since 2014. We've worked with, and we still work with, a lot of great companies. You have a ton of information here about AppTweaks. There's one I really want to highlight, is that we are currently hiring. We have offices in the US, Belgium, India, and Japan, and we have positions for at least 3 of these 4 different offices open at the moment. So if you're interested, I invite you to also go to our LinkedIn page, where you can learn more about all of this, or also ask my colleagues in the chat. Quick word about me as well. I've been doing ASO for about 4 years now, little over 4 years actually. And I'm head of ASO at AppTweak, so I support our mobile app and game developers across various regions of the globe, various verticals. And I've always been a growth marketing enthusiast, used to do growth marketing before I jumped into ASO. And as a result, I'm always happy to look at how you can look at the big picture, not only at the specialty that is ASO, but also how it ties to other topics. And this is why we're here today. So as you saw, we're going to talk about ASO and UA in a post-IDFA world. So we'll start with actually a few useful reminders about ASO, ATT, SCAD network, all these words you probably have been hearing for a while. And then we'll look into some of the different strategies that have been mentioned as potential options for once privacy changes are going live to Apple. And this is when actually I'm really interested in looking at what everyone is saying in the poll, because we're going to be discussing some of these strategies today, and see how ASO fits in or does not fit in all that well. So I'm seeing for the current responses, the most popular option would be to increase budget in Apple search ads. That is going to be the core focus, so that's great. Seeing that 28% of responders are saying they will keep running UA as they used to, or as they are still doing before ATT. And then we have some saying they will stop UA, 22% saying stop UA on iOS until you can clearly assess the situation, with 11% saying they will shift budget from iOS to Google Play. So all of that is super interesting, and we're going to discuss how ASO can help you in each of these options.
Simon, can I just ask you to move your mic a little bit away from?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it's picking up a little bit. I think let's just do a quick test.
Test 1, 2. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, and
Perfect.
maybe try not to move too much. That's great. No,
Sure.
that's a lot better. All right, thanks, and thanks for the feedback in the chat room. Thanks. Great.
So with that, let us get started. Quick mention, I know a lot of people are always interested in getting slides. They will be made available. They should already be live on our website and social media, so do check it out. So to get started, I want to give a useful reminder about what ASO is and especially what it is in 2021. Because a lot of people have heard of ASO as the SEO for apps, which it is partially, but not completely. And they mostly expect keywords. And when it comes to ASO in 2021, you need to look at it as a process to improve your app's visibility and appeal in both stores, both major app stores, Google, the Apple App Store and Google Play. Do this throughout your app's lifetime. Don't think it's going to work if you do it once. And always with the objective to increase your app's download. So it's going to start with optimizing metadata. That's going to be the keyword part, but also a few other fields as well, including the category you pick. If we're talking about Google Play, it would also be the Google tags. But it's also going to be optimizing your store creatives to maximize your conversion. And it's also going to extend to improving reviews and ratings, monitoring your product metrics, and even supporting your inorganic traffic, because this is going to have an impact on organic as well. So if we look at an App Store page, basically ASO is everywhere. Now, the main topic for today is how ASO can help you deal with the changes that Apple is about to implement with regards to privacy. And there is a very famous acronym here, which is ATT, App Tracking Transparency. And just want to remind everyone what it is. It's a framework that will require all developers to acquire consent to track users and especially access their device's advertising identifier. It's expected to become mandatory in early spring. Apple just let float around the fact that it might be delayed again to around May, but this will still be spring at least. And where it's going to be important is that it's expected that access to user IDFA will drop below 50% of all iPhones and iPads. And this is super important just because most ad networks rely on the IDFA, on this identifier, to power most of their advertising tools, whether it's tracking, whether it's optimizing similar audiences. All of this used to be relying on the IDFA and is now going to be put in question because users will have to give permission whether they want to share their IDFA or not with every single app. And to help with the attribution question, for instance, Apple has been developing its own privacy-friendly tools, CAD Network, but this tool is still very limited when it comes to post-install conversion events, for instance. Also, when we're talking about retargeting, deep linking. And so overall, this feels like individual ad targeting is more or less over. And now we're going to hear a lot more about probabilistic measurement of ROAS instead of deterministic. But also we need to remember that when it comes to advertising, context is going to be the new key because it's all going to be about when you advertise to the right audience. Something that's also not that well known today is that the changes are already in motion because even though ATT is not released yet, it will be part of iOS 14.5. The access to users' IDFA has already started decreasing as iOS 14 has been released. One reason for this is that all new devices have LAT on, limit ad tracking on, as a default, for instance. And it's important to remember that once ATT is rolled out, all these users won't even be prompted to accept tracking in most circumstances. And so Kaizen actually released a study, and I want to give a shout out to Claire Rosin, who shared this on Twitter, and this is how I caught this one. The study says that 33% of all iOS traffic in the US already is without IDFA. We go up to 45% in the EU. And that means that here you already have a huge part of traffic that might not be targeted by default in your tools. And at the same time, Kaizen found that only 35% of iOS 14 bid requests supported SCAD network. And that means there's still a lot to do to make sure that your ad networks and your apps are ready for this. And so when we're speaking about UA without IDFA, this is a very interesting meme I found about how basically IDFA is going to stop, and we need to get ready for the big fall, or rather find a parachute. And this is the image I want to share with you in terms of how ASO is going to be able to help you today. So the first option that we had heard when ATT was announced was people saying they would stop doing UA altogether, or almost stopping UA, and instead just invest a lot in ASO. And that is a good idea, but not a great one. It's not a great idea because you have to understand how ASO is complementary to UA, but not a silver bullet that can be the replacement for it. And so the first thing I want to talk about here is the risk of switching to organic only traffic if you're not having this structure already. If you are already organic only, you won't have these downsides, and this is where using ASO is just going to always help you. But if you've been investing a lot in UA and have not prepared your ASO, it's going to help you, but it won't be the silver bullet. Some of the good sides of putting more resources into organic is that it's going to help you decrease costs, get a higher LTV per user, and you won't have the question of, am I cannibalizing any audience if you're stopping UA? But at the same time, you need to expect losing organic visibility. You probably are going to end up being more dependent on your brand traffic. And finally, you also have to consider, if you're looking at the growth perspective, where ASO growth, organic growth might be limited sometimes due to market saturation. So first thing is understanding why doing only organic when you used to be doing UA plus organic represents a risk of losing organic visibility. And so here we need to understand how search engine works. So it all starts with a user entering a search query in the App Store, where different apps have already submitted their metadata. Those have been indexed, and the store is going to first try to match the search query with the index metadata, finding what app is relevant and what app is not, and not yet deciding which app is most relevant. That step is the indexing phase. And then we go to the ranking phase. And this is where you need to be aware of what UA can impact. So there are many different ranking factors. These are some that we know of. Apple has not disclosed all of them, so we don't know everything that goes in here. But among those that have been identified by various ASO experts, you have some organic specific items, but you also have some which are dependent on UA. Two of them would be the app download velocity and the user download history. So when it comes to the app download velocity, it's very simple. It's just because your app is more or less popular in the eyes of the store, depending on how many people are downloading it every day. And so if two apps are performing equally well when it comes to converting users in search for a specific term, then the store is probably going to have a look at which of these two apps is most popular overall, meaning which one gets the most downloads overall. And so if you suddenly stop any UA you are driving to the store, then you're going to have a cliff effect and end up falling down. And that loss in overall popularity can, in fact, impact how your apps is going to be ranked. When it comes to the user's download history, this is a trickier one. It's a smaller effect, but it's important to understand that when you have used UA to drive traffic to your other games, your other apps, and that your overall popularity as a developer, for instance, has been important thanks to UA, you're also shooting yourself in the leg when stopping completely. And so the whole challenge is how can you make sure to keep some level of popularity in here and still be ranked and have your games ranked for one game ranked for the other games you have already released. And so when you have all these ranking factors put in, and again, some of them are really dependent on organic as well. So this is why you still want to be doing organic with UA and not just UA. But when you put everything together, this is what is going to determine where exactly the store ranks you for a certain query and returns the results to the user. And obviously, this is how you're going to build a virtual circle or see some negative effects keep affecting your traffic. Quick reminder as well, search according to the App Store is 65% of all installs. It's definitely a lot. It's not all of it. So don't forget that some users go to the store without search. And second thing to consider as well is how a lot of searches are actually based on brand traffic. We've had a look recently at the most popular, the most searched keywords in 2020 across various countries. And we found that between 20 and 30% of the most 500 searched keywords in each of these countries were generic terms. And that means that here you see how branded keywords are more popular overall. It's still worth investing in generic because it's not nothing at all. And in fact, this is also how you can build relevancy for other brands. But that means that overall, a purely organic approach is always reliant to some degree on the brand awareness. The final thing when it comes to the risks of switching to organic only is forgetting that there is a market saturation effect. That means there's not always the same ceiling when it comes to reaching the top charts in a given country. So here the example I like to give is comparing music apps in the US and Turkey, and you find that all the very major player of music streaming that you would probably know about, not just Spotify, but also YouTube Music, Pandora, SoundCloud, Amazon Music. Only one of them is in the top 5 of Google Play in Turkey. And that's because in Turkey, a lot less people are optimizing. So that's definitely more potential there than if you're trying to reach the top charts in the US where everyone has already been doing ASO. So always be careful about how you want to conquer traffic and where it's possible to conquer traffic and where ASO is mostly going to help you secure this layer of users who don't necessarily know about your brand but will be interested in your product. A second strategy I want to discuss today is the notion that you should switch budget from iOS to Android. I can't cover all of the implications first because of time, and second because I think there are more qualified people to explain how audiences on Android might not be as prompt to pay to spend money in the app. But overall, you need to consider impact and synergies with ASO before you start doing so. And one thing to remember is that retention is a key factor for both category rankings and keyword rankings on Google Play. And adding UA or removing UA is likely to have an impact. It could be positive or negative, but this is more of a general warning of be sure to consider what you're adding or subtracting when starting to measure the impact, how you rank for organic terms or also in your category. Another thing to consider when it comes to doing ASO on Google Play is remembering that the audiences on Android behave differently than on iOS. Explore traffic is more important than search in most cases on Google Play. And at the same time, you will have different featuring opportunities, most of them being generated by algorithms. And so that means that both ASO and UACs are going to influence each other. So again, make sure to have some sort of synchronicity between your UA team and your ASO team if trying to put more focus on Android. One last thing to remember as well, if you're looking at really boosting Android, is the undervalued functionalities that are available in Google Play. And one of them that I really want to highlight is using custom store listings, because ASO is usually restricted by the idea that you're doing this per language or per local sometimes, but you don't have a very specific targeting. And so if English US is your default page, it could appear everywhere in the world. And that means that if you have a special discount or a special event live for the US and only the US, showing this to your default US store page could actually end up backfiring because people in other countries will see it. And this is when you want to be investigating on top advanced features of Google Play like custom store listings, which help you have a specific store page for the US while keeping this default English US for everyone as well, but show the discount or event only to that US audience. So this was a few notions to keep in mind if you're going into the extremes, I would say, of just saying, let's stop UA or let's stop let's shift focus from iOS to Android. But now I want to speak about Apple search ads because you guys already said it in the poll. This is what most people are thinking, putting more budget in Apple search ads. And here, this is where you have a lot of synergies to build with ASO. So we'll start with a very basic level, and also we'll start by explaining why Apple Ads is interesting in the current context. And that is because Apple Search Ads is going to benefit from a relative exemption to ATT. And that means that you will probably get more data from your attribution tool when people are downloading with search ads and when they're downloading with other networks. So if you've never done Apple Search Ads before, the first advice to give is talk to your ASO team, because if you have an ASO team, even if no one has been doing Apple Search Ads, you have a huge history on data history on keyword. You will know what are the top keyword volumes and therefore what are the top keywords to target. You might also have these clusters that have already been built by a team, helping you understand what could be different ad groups to build in Apple Search Ads. So here I've done an example with Google Maps. and the fact that you could be thinking about Google products where you want Google Maps to always appear. You could be thinking about GPS and navigation, obviously, but even thinking about finding nearby restaurants or finding out about business hours for a specific local shop, etc. And so all this work has hopefully been already done by your ASO team. And this is work they can easily share to help you identify which are the keywords you want to start targeting from the get-go. A second thing where they might be able to help is just that if they're using an ASO tool, a lot of ASO tools, including AppTweak, have an Apple Search Ads functionality to help you track things such as the share of voice of different apps on a certain term. And so here, all of this are easy steps to take when you get started to choose what to target, what not to target, and gather a lot of data very fast. The second step is having a loop of feedback between ASO and Apple Search Ads and making sure you synchronize paid and organic when it comes to keywords. The reason to do that is first because if we look at paid is going to be benefiting from ASO because the Apple Search Ads algorithm is meant to optimize Apple's profits, no surprise there, but that means that they need to optimize the amount of people installing from Apple Search Ads, and to do that, they not only look at how much money you've bid, but also they look at your app's relevance to the user's search query. And they decide based on that if your app should be the one shown or if it should be someone else. And that's where having an ASO loop is going to help you. If you are targeting keywords that you already target organically, you will have better chances of being shown in Apple Search Ads. One thing that people don't always know is that the long description on iOS is not indexed organically, but many believe that it is when it comes to ASA. And so having an ASO expert who's been working on optimizing long descriptions for Google Play helps you in adding keywords to your long description on iOS could in fact benefit ASA a lot more than it would in ASO. A thing to remember as well is making sure that your ASAs are going to also benefit ASO. And here, the advice we give is to first use ASA to share with your ASO team keyword level conversion rates, because this is not data that is available in App Store Connect. And this is a very important ranking factor. So being able to provide an ASO team with the exact conversion rate for a certain keyword is going to be tremendously helpful to them, which in turn can benefit again to your ASA team. And an advice for those who can afford it is to keep a small part of your budget as a way to test new keywords before you actually target them organically, and to also increase your organic relevance, because sometimes your app is relevant, but the keyword conversion rate is not great just because your app is not seen at first. And so targeting with ASA a certain keyword, which you know is going to work well, is going to also improve the organic relevance and make sure the keyword, your app ranks better for this keyword, at which time you can then decide whether you want to keep this keyword in your Apple Search Ads or just continue targeting it organically. The last step when it comes to Apple Search Ads, the advanced layer, is going to be optimizing creatives for Search Ads. Because Search Ads has this amazing feature called Creative Sets, which helps you rotate creatives already in your store gallery and choose which free creatives to show in the search results, provided you do this in order. But so if we take the example of a fitness app here, we see that the default is a generic USP that is probably working quite well if you don't know where users are coming from. but we also have some more interest-focused creatives after when it comes to fitness or diet and weight loss. And so having these are a great option to decide when you're going to be targeting a certain keyword, which creative to show as well to maximize the conversion per keyword. And so here, your goal should be to have the ASO team be aware of the different ad groups your ASA team is targeting, and make sure that you might have different creatives that can fit the different profiles you want to target. In the end, that means design screenshots to make cart rotation seamless and show multiple value propositions. One last thing before we open up to questions is how you can also use ASO to research customer intent. The value of ASO is not going to stop with targeting good keywords for Apple search ads. It can in fact help any UA effort. The first thing is just going to be by leveraging the entire value hidden behind keyword volumes and keyword metrics. That means that if you're doing a new product research, you can compare marketability of different concepts simply by starting into what are the keywords that have the most traffic, also the most competition. And so here I took the example of racing games to show that you can have multiple niches behind racing games. You will have also classic car games, but you could also have bike games, kart games, truck racing games. These are different niches. And looking into what are the most popular keywords is going to help you assess which niche is the right one for you. Again, don't just look at keyword volume, although that's obviously where you should start, but also look at what are the other apps ranking for these terms and where you will have your best fit. Another thing to consider is that you can also assess customer intent for certain words which can have different meanings. And here, just doing keyword data comparison, whether it's to choose which word is the best for you, or if there's a certain term that is much more popular in one country compared to another, is going to be a considerable factor to succeed in terms of gaining traffic. And last thing is also being able to rely on A/B testing and volume to adapt your messaging. So if we look here, for instance, at the comparison between beat and drum, two words that might have the same intent in terms of what the user wants to, what the developer wants to be saying, we see that beat has a higher volume, much more installs available as a result, but also much higher difficulty. And if we looked further into what are the apps ranking for this, you have to consider that beat can be used in different ways and not just to mean the beat of a drum. And that's all the situations where having this research and having the A/B test to also see how your audience reacts is going to be key to making the difference in how you address users in your UA in the end. The other goldmine, I think, when it comes to understanding customer intent is looking at reviews and ratings for both your app and competitors. You can have sentiment analysis to see what are the items that are being mentioned the most, and also look at certain topics. And here, my tip is to always look at a Google Play phone, an Android phone, to have these review topics that are assigned by Google Play and let you know what people are talking about. Because this is going to help you understand where your app is strong and where your app may be faltering. And that's it for the overall advice. I hope I wasn't too long, and I'm happy to take questions now.
Great. Okay, thanks, Simon. That was great. Covered a lot of ground there. So let me see. I have a question myself. Let's check. Is everything still running? I thought we'd lost the video stream there. No, it's still running. Good. So if anyone has any questions, please leave them in the questions tab. I can see they're coming in now. We will get to them. I do have a question myself, Simon,
Sure.
which is maybe you want to stop sharing your screen now.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned this idea of people going organic only. Is that seriously being considered by a lot of your clients or people you know in the industry?
I think this was more kind of the doomsday reaction when Apple first announced the ATT. I haven't heard a lot of people saying that's what they're intending to do today. But I think even when you think of it as just, we're not going to go fully organic in the end, but we want to stop organic, we want to stop paid for a few months just to assess where we are. This is something that might have an impact. And so it's better to consider this as a potential outcome. If you say, okay, we're going to stop UA for the first 2 months of ATT just to understand from the industry what's working. It might be beneficial in terms of saving money, but it also has a risk of impacting organic visibility. That was the point I wanted to make.
Got it. And Evangelina is asking how many keywords can you track at one time with AppTweak?
How many do you want is the answer. I'm pretty sure that it depends on the plan on AppTweak, but for these questions, feel free to reach out. I think we have some of my colleagues in the chat and who will be there around the entire event. So be sure to check out our enterprise page and contact us there because we'll be able to go into much more details.
Great. And Andrew is asking, I was trying to click in and see where he's from, but it wouldn't let me. So potentially he's blocked me. It was maybe a wise decision and maybe a little bug in the matrix. Andrew is saying, as a startup app with a need to focus on ASO over paid UA at first, are there any other best practices on how to define keyword clusters cost effectively, stroke for free?
That's a great question. I would say the question here is really how you can do it step by step. If you've never done UA before, you don't have this risk of dropping, obviously. So it's just building stone by stone in a way. And so my advice would be to not immediately target the higher volume keywords, but start with more long tail, choosing what keywords are working the best for you, even if they're low volume at first, and just ensure your positive rankings there and start building up and targeting more competitive keywords as you go. To always keep that relevant, keep that amazing conversion rate that will signal to the App Store or the Play Store. This is an app that is slowly building its user base, but it's going to be very popular, and you should consider it for even larger keywords.
Great. And Lex Van Gent is saying, hi, Simon, you mentioned the custom store listing. How are you dealing with the multi-language countries like, for example, Belgium? We do have some special creators for Belgium, but we're not sure how to deal with this.
So for Belgium, there are several ways of dealing with this. If what you want to be doing is have something very specific to Belgian users, custom store listings are actually the best answer to do for Google Play. Unfortunately, we don't have the same for iOS. But when it comes to Google Play, you can target multiple languages in one custom store listing. So you could, in fact, localize per language in Belgium by having French, Dutch, and German all be available for your custom store listing, which is only available in Belgium. And that way your marketing assets can really focus on these users and not appear for French people or German people or Dutch people. but only to Belgian users in the language they prefer.
Okay, that sounds like a good solution then. Great. So, one question I had was, what's your view? How is this going to affect ASO? These changes Apple are making. Is it going to mean? Is it going to be great because there's going to be more? Well, certainly good for you, maybe more interest in ASO and organic marketing, or is it going to make it way more competitive? Is it going to
I think here it's going to be interesting. Like there's no easy answer. It's going to be more competitive because more people are realizing that search is going to be more important. Also, browse, which we did not focus too much on today, but obviously a lot of people are saying this is a way for Apple to regain leverage on showing which apps are featured and having more apps compete for that app of the day spot, for instance. But my conviction is that the ones who are going to make the best out of it are going to be the marketers who are going to not just think as ASO as a channel they were not investing enough in the past, but as also this data gold mine. Because just knowing what people are looking for, what people are saying in reviews and ratings, that is tremendous insight in terms of what can succeed and how to appeal to customers. And that's something where I think too many people, when they started doing ASO, were just about going for the very high value keywords, and not always thinking, okay, how can I bring what I learn from search to other teams? And this is really where it is going to be a new step for ASO, I think.
Got it. Great. So, and what's the best way for people to find out more about AppTweak if they're not working with you at the moment, or can they try out the tool? How's it work?
So they can absolutely connect with me and connect with the enterprise on Swapcard. And otherwise, we're easily available on social media, whether me or the company, LinkedIn, Twitter, I would say would be the preferred ways. Our website, Intercom, obviously. And if you've been doing ASO for a while, you might already be in the ASO Stack Slack channel. So I'm trying to go there every once in a while to answer a couple of questions, and you can easily find me there and find also the different resources we put out on our blog. So always happy to connect.
Well, great. Thanks. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for joining us today for your
Thanks for having
second
me.
App Promotion Summit talk. That was really great and a lot of food for thought there and a lot for us to mull over, and we'll see how this progresses this year. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone. All good?